I want to take a moment to discuss Nathan Prescott and his innocence, or possibly lack thereof. I will mention now once that there will be many spoilers from here on out about Life is Strange episodes 1 through to 4, so if you haven't had the chance to enjoy this game yet, I highly recommend you go and experience it yourself or watch a playthrough without commentary and get your own sense and feel of the game, themes, and characters before delving into my theory. Playing through episodes 1 to 4, I've noticed a reoccurring theme of seemingly purposeful hints towards Nathan being the bad guy, the villain, or more obviously just a generally unstable and violent person. I assume the intent is to dislike Nathan, as through the first 2 episodes we're almost given nothing to excuse his actions or even better understand them. But this is something that has been happening from the beginning with a handful of characters who we can discover some small, if not equally compromising things about. I think this is one of the great details about this game. It's true to life in the sense that people are not so black and white. We aren't just completely good and innocent, and we aren't completely bad and evil. And it certainly takes a lot more to know someone's true character than to watch them from the outside and sneak through limited evidence. Now, Nathan may actually be tied up in all this more so than others, and perhaps his actions are far worse than others, but bear with me. David Madsen is the best comparison to Nathan I can think of in this circumstance. David's exterior character is incredibly difficult to like. He's hardened, insensitive, paranoid, and aggressive. His motives are very unclear, and his actions are rightfully questionable and sometimes plain shitty. He slaps Chloe if you choose to hide in episode 1, and the things he says to her are on the level of verbal abuse in my book. All of that is completely inexcusable.
Stop treating me and my mom like we're your family platoon!
Hey! Leave Joyce out of this!
I wish you'd leave Joyce! Like now!
But if you give him just a little chance and dig a little deeper, you find remorse, protectiveness, and similar motives to Max.
I didn't have all the evidence at the time. I am sorry, Max.
You even find that maybe he really values his family, that he really loves Joyce, that he's struggling with depression or PTSD and has his own hardships. Nathan Prescott, much like David, seems to be a mixed bag. We know that he shot Chloe, accidental or not.
Away from me, psycho!
Oh, shit! No! No!
We hear about his antics from other people. We know he takes recreational drugs and drinks. We see him beat Warren and threaten Max several times. We see authority figures bend around him, obviously intimidated by the power of his family, or the outcome of getting involved or even trying to help him. We know he drugged Chloe and has potentially done something to her while she was unconscious.
Oh my god. Chloe. Oh, Chloe.
All bad things, right? But does that mean he's guilty of kidnapping and murdering Rachel Amber? Someone he has considered a friend, and could he do this to Victoria, someone he seems to be really connected and close with? You don't have to look hard to figure out there is some sort of mental health issue potentially contributing to Nathan's actions. We can find that he's taking prescription drugs, though whether he actually takes them or even needs to take them remains to be seen. We can find that his parents bail him out of all kinds of trouble, some of which could have led to some positive help. We've seen a couple of attempts at school authority and even a psychologist try to reach out to his parents for further assistance in helping him. And lastly, we constantly see him in an irrational state of swinging emotion, and he is likely to use physical threats or violence. We can safely assume this all means Nathan Prescott is a teenager with evident mental disorders whose parents seem to not care about helping him in any real positive way. We know that he is seriously distressed and feels he is being controlled, or that people are trying to control him, and that this is a huge trigger for him. We also have seen a few small instances of him caring for people genuinely. The reason I point this out is so that it's clear that Nathan, like any person, has more than one side. So this is where my opinions and theories come in, and I do try to stick to logical evidence, but a lot of what I believe about this game comes from instinct and gut feelings that are more or less based off of clear evidence. I don't think Nathan is the villain. More importantly, I don't think he's directly involved in Rachel Amber's death, and I don't think he would be capable of letting that happen to Victoria, who I believe he is quite close with. The best piece of evidence to support this we find in episode 4, when we finally get to find the dark room and see a completely disturbing picture of Nathan laying with a seemingly unconscious or dead Rachel Amber right by the spot she was buried. If we quickly jump back to episode 3, where Max is dressed in her Rachel Amber gear at the Two Wells Diner, and she's trying to dig up information on Frank to get his keys. Nathan happens to be here also, and when Max first approaches him, we catch a glimpse of happiness or relief when Nathan mistakes Max for Rachel.
Rachel?
Wouldn't this be an incredibly strange reaction had he known Rachel was dead? I gather from this reaction that he either was totally uninvolved in the events leading to Rachel's death, or he didn't want to be and was forced or stopped when trying to help her and has ultimately no idea what has become of Rachel Amber. Another theory is that perhaps he's mentally blocked it all as a way to protect his sanity. I mean, there are evidently lots of folders with countless girls' names marked on the sides of binders in the dark room, and we know in some shape or form Nathan has been here, but why does Rachel Amber seem to be the one that triggers physical evidence of emotional distress in him, such as the Rachel in the dark room drawing we find in episode 3? As a final point, I will share my personal opinion. Perhaps I've looked into all of this too much through the eyes of a mother, but to me blaming Nathan for his actions in his current state of mind would be irresponsible and severely lacking in empathy. He seems to be desperate for approval from his father, who dangles his approval around like a reward he should be striving for. Nathan is being failed by all the adults around him. No one is giving him the stability or help he deserves, and just maybe, some of those adults, like Mr. Jefferson or his father, or both, see that he's desperate for approval and see a weak spot to exploit him for their own twisted purposes. His actions may not be excusable, but we can at the very least understand them. I also want to point out that I have many theories that conflict with what I've said, as there are many bits and pieces of evidence that don't seem to quite fit together yet, but the basis of my opinion, that in a lot of ways Nathan himself is a victim, is constant.